Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, people of the world. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. I'm joined by a special guest. Well, everyone's a special guest because they take their time to join me on their show. I'm joined by Executive Director of the greatest fraternity in the world, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, Brother Sean McCaskill. Now, I don't think this gentleman remembers me. I pop up everywhere. I remember meeting him the first time was in Las Vegas, and he was, I guess, running for president. And I walked up to him and I said, I just want to introduce myself. But he was being sworn by hundreds of people. And then we ran into each other again when I had the great fortune of visiting the headquarters and just seeing the historic building of our great fraternity. But I wanted to have him join us on the show to share his leadership because he is a leader in a national organization. So I know that he has quite a lot to share. But Brother McCaskill, before we get started, can you give the listeners a little bit about who you are?
Sean McCaskill. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, of course, with the greatest NFL team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, we totally locked in with them. But my journey is, is a little different than a lot of folks, because I was raised in an area in Pittsburgh called the Hill District. It's been gentrified a little now, but when, growing up there was some hard lessons that I had to learn growing up, which helped me evolve into leadership. And it's kind of funny. I really didn't consider myself a leader, I just didn't, I was pretty popular growing up, but I didn't consider myself a leader. And it's amazing that it took a football coach, and it was a white guy in college, who first, who introduced, he didn't, through him trying to break me down and then me just picking up what he was trying to do, that was the introduction to it. I'm playing college football, and my defensive coordinator, I couldn't understand why he didn't like me. For some reason he was just extremely difficult. He was always difficult with me. And I used to tell the head coach, be like, he don't like me. I'm not going to get a fair shot here because he doesn't like me, So one game, it came to a head. And so we're playing, and the ball was going to the boundary. I'm talking football now, goes to the boundary. I played the field corner. So I ran all the way from the field, the wide side of the field, to the short side of the field. And I made a play. Me and the free safety made a play. And, we were celebrating, of course I was representing, I was trying to represent, and, I hear him scream, the defensive coordinator screaming on the headset to take me out the game. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, so I unstrapped my helmet, to get ready to walk off the field. And, like I told you, I've been telling the head coach, like, hey, he's been on me, I can't get a fair shot. So the head coach caught him what he was doing. So he was like, so the head coach started screaming at him. He was like, Tommy. He was like, what, Frank? He said, leave him the hell alone. He came all the way from the field, made that play. Leave him the hell alone. He said, McCaskill, get your ass back in the game. So after the game, we're sitting there, and I looked at the head coach, and he pointed at me, and I pointed at him, and it was an understanding. But when the defensive coordinator came, he said, you want to meet with me? I said, absolutely. So I went, took a shower, went up, and when I was meeting with him, he said, I heard about your reputation around campus and all this other stuff. And if you ever wanted to come see me, you better pack a lunch. So I was like, why would you want to fight me? I'm just a kid. You know what I mean? I'm just a kid playing football. Why would you want to fight me? You know what I mean? So I was like, so what do I need to do? You know, because he kept just saying all these negative things. So I said, okay, so what do I need to do so you'll leave me alone and I won't come out the game? He said, well, you know, you're going to take these players up or you're going to take them down. So I was looking, I was like, no. I said, no, that's not going to happen. I said, I put my pants leg on one leg at a time, just like everybody else. So I'm no. He said, you can take them up or take them down. And he said, and I said, okay, so what do I need to do? He said, you need to be at the front of the line. I said, I can't be at the front of the line. I'm not a senior. He said, well, you need to be in the second line. I said, okay, not a problem. He said, you need to, you know, be out the field early. So I said, okay, all right, done. I can do that, you know, and film, you know, I need you to be at film early too. No problem. And then here's the kicker. He said, when we're traveling, you need to be in the front of the bus or in the front of the plane. I was like, man, okay, all right, right. So I left the meeting a little startled, like where'd that come from, you know? So then I said, well, let me try something. So I said to the other defensive backs, I was like, hey, how about us, you know, coming in early and watch some film? You know, let's try to get down here around 2. We can get a good half hour's worth of film, and then go down and get dressed and then go out to the field and do a walkthrough. And everybody's like, okay, all right, we're there. So I was like, hold up, wait a second. I'm starting to put it together. And then it started to make me think about when I was young, when things used to happen and they would always say Sean McCaskill and them. But it never registered. No one ever said that's leadership. You know what I mean? Nobody ever that people looked at me as a leader. And then I used to always wonder why, you know, like with some authority figures, I would always have conflict with because they're trying to get out of pocket. Then what I learned about the defensive coordinator, he was trying to take control over the team, and he couldn't because he didn't have control over me. So I was in his way. But the way I was brought up, him going at me the way he was going at me, trying to break me, he can never break me. My background wouldn't allow that to happen. You're never going to break me. If anything, you're going to make me compete against you even more. You know, and then when I joined the greatest fraternity in the world, I was the president of the line, and that was something that everybody had to pick. You know, we picked who was going to be the president. So that was like my introduction. It through a lot of trials and tribulations. You know what I mean? That, you know, there was some leadership skills in me, and to go back, my sports background, even then. You know, our team, once I started to understand, this was my junior year. Once I started to understand that, like, our defense just took off. You know what I mean? We lost, I think that year we lost 2 games. And then the following year after that, we only lost 1 game. So, you know, and that's just through, you know, just some trials and tribulations and not knowing. I wish that, you know, he was wise enough to kind of tell me exactly what he's seen in me, you know what I mean? But again, I don't think he really wanted me to be the leader, you know, but you know, that's something that you learn over time. You know, you can network your way into leadership positions and things like that. But at the end of the day, what needs to happen is that, you know, the people will choose who they want.
I was literally about to say the people's champ. Like sometimes,
being
organically yourself. I said that too, and I gravitated to, and I listened to you online. Is that your main focus was on the brotherhood? And I think one thing you said to me, or said in general, was like, I'm not out here. If you want to pick someone else, that's your prerogative. I just want to serve the people. And if people naturally gravitate to that, then so be it. If not, I support the group, the collective. Can you speak to that mindset where it's like, I'm not trying to prove anything as a leader. I'm trying to be myself, my authentic self. And if you choose that, that's the will of the people. If not, that's okay.
Well, that's what they call that selfless leadership, right? You know, it's not about me. It's about the collective and understanding. I think in any organization that you join, you want to kind of understand what's the lay of the land. And if we consider ourselves a brotherhood, right, then that's what comes first. It doesn't matter, again, and that's the one thing I love about Alpha. I could have my opinion about something, right? But if the collectives vote in a different way, what I personally believe, it doesn't matter at that particular time, because the collective voted to go in a different way. So I have to line up and go in that way. That's the thing. That's the beauty about the brotherhood. And I think a lot of times we lose focus to that. And I think a lot of times people will reverse it and think that individuals control things, and it's not. It's the collective that controls everything. And that's the thing that I love more. So if I always focus my attentions on the collective, I'm always going to be in the right space.
I love it. And so going back to the Hill, I read a lot. I'm a history buff. I know there was a pivotal Black community. It's pivotal. A lot of, I think about the Negro League, right, and then the Pittsburgh. I think it's the Pittsburgh Carrier of the newspaper. But just the instrumental, it's a very influential Black community. Can you talk about growing up in that community and how that shaped you in regards to, like you said, grit and your values and things like that?
Well, I mean, so I grew up in the Hill, and we moved. Every time we moved in a different section of the Hill. So I started off in a place called Burl Street. And it was me and my older sister. She was 4 years older than I was. And it was, a single parent mom, and there was life lessons, that I had to learn quickly, that I wish, you sit back and it's like, come on, Mom, where are we going with this one? You know what I mean? Because there was a thing my mom used to always say, is that I don't have a lot, so the things that I have, you cherish the things that I do for you. So I, so very early, like someone's stealing off you, like something missing, nah, you can't come home without it. You know what I mean? So it's like, you better go out and find it, like coming home crying about something. Nah, can't come in here crying. You go back out there, and I had a sister who was 4 years older than me. So, and again, so she get into some trouble, and then my mom looking at me like, so, so you would have to, so I grew up, I grew up where physical confrontations were acceptable. So it was a means of surviving in that environment. But that was, that was prevalent for, until I always played sports, but it kind of sports kind of, and I have to say it, like sports saved my life. I mean, it was able to, I was able to change, the trajectory of where I was going based upon my athletic ability. Because then I was looked at as an athlete. So once you're labeled as an athlete, you get a pass on certain things that happen in the community. You know what I mean? So it's like, nah, I watched you play football, man. You go ahead, keep playing that football, man. Go ahead. You can't be around here. So it's like, oh, thank you. You know what I mean? In the inside, you're like, thank you so much. You know what I mean? So, but to be honest with you, I wouldn't trade it for the world, because it taught me a lot about like loyalty and understanding that survival wasn't just based upon me. I needed other people to help me survive. And that helps me out in my leadership also, because again, like I'm extremely loyal. That's why I don't join a whole bunch of organizations. You know what I mean? I've been, masonry and all that. No, I can't do that, because I'm so committed to what I do with Alpha that I don't have the additional time to spread myself out. And if I join something else, I'm gonna feel guilty if I can't put the time in. So for me, other people can balance it. Me, I can't. And I think that comes from just my background. You know what I mean? You can't serve two masters. So Alpha is what I do. And I'm okay with that,
How about just navigating, I'm assuming, I'm not going to make any sense. Were you a first gen college student?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How was that, navigating that world? It, like you said, it saved your life, got you to college. talk about that transition from the hill to the college, world, college life.
Well, it wasn't good. I tell you that. So I had to. So there was I had to go up in the summer. So it was a 5-week program to let you. The football coach wanted all the players, freshmen to come up for that because it gives you some credits and then it gets you acclimated into college faster instead of you just coming up in the fall. So I was up there in the summer for 5 weeks. It wasn't good, you know what I mean? Because I think in 5 weeks, I think I got into 3 fights in 5 weeks. You know what I mean? So I was up there with the mentality like, listen, man, like this freshman stuff, this I don't know nothing about that. You know what I mean? So y'all, this upperclassman just talking to me crazy. Y'all can't do that, So, it took until and it was kind of, it was 2 things that kind of changed me. So one, I was in the cafeteria my freshman summer. It was like towards the end, and the young lady was, she was like, she was talking to me. I was talking to her back, and she was like, "Hold up, aren't you the freshman? Ain't you the freshman that'll be up here fighting? Who comes to college to fight?" You know what I mean? Like, and this was a upperclassman female, so I'm looking at her like, well, I did kind of notice it wasn't a whole bunch of people doing the same thing I was on. So I was like, So that was the first thing. And then there was an alpha, and that's the reason why I wanted to become an alpha. There was we were playing basketball, picked up, this guy's name was Sam. I was hanging out with him. Me and Sam was I kept hearing his name, and then we had went to the cafeteria at the same time, and we were sitting down eating. I was like, man, I keep hearing about this guy, Sam the Alpha. Who the hell is Sam the Alpha? Right? So he was looking at me. I was like, yeah, who's Sam the Alpha? And then he's like, I'm Sam the Alpha. I said, wow. I said, why didn't you tell me you was an alpha? He said, if I got to tell you that I'm an alpha, then I must not be doing the work on the yard. So it's time for me to get back to work. Wow.
Yeah.
I was locked in after that. I was locked in. Sign me.
Yeah, so Sam the Alpha didn't wear letters or nothing. He was just being himself.
No, he wasn't wearing no letters or nothing. You know what I mean?
He was just being himself, and people gravitated to him. But they were, and I always remember that. I love that story for the simple fact that I remember when you represent the brand of Alpha, is like, remember now it's your name, the whatever.
That's
right. You go out there in the community, you're like, understand. And I've always fought that. Even when I meet new people, I'm like, I don't want to be known as Philip the Alpha. I want to be, Philip Wilkerson that happens to be an alpha. And what I mean by that is that is not my leading identity. Like I want to be known as a man of character on my own. I want to be known as someone that is resourceful and all that. And the fact that I am connected or extended or adjacent to this great organization is a bonus. But at the core of who I am, I was supposed to be about scholarship. I was supposed to be about manly deeds. I was supposed to be about it. But I also understand that in the greater world, regardless of the perception I have of myself, I will be coined as Philip the Alpha, right? And so, yep. I don't know. I just love that story kind of connects that mindset.
Yeah, like, and
no matter where you are, you're Brother McCaskill, you're Sean McCaskill, the Alpha. Like for those that externally see you.
And you know what? I embrace it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because again, it's you belong to something that's so much bigger than you. And I think, and I always, there's, I've been telling brothers this for the longest, that there's the 3 greatest days in Alpha, you know what I mean? And the first one we all get, the second one, not everybody gets. And then the third one is even less people get, so the first day, the first day that you become an alpha, that's day 1. You never forget that. The day that you crossed, the day that you became a member, the day you were able to wear these, these letters across your chest, you know what I mean? You'll never forget that, you know what I mean? So everybody have experienced that, regardless if you come from a college, come from the college level or an alumni level, it doesn't matter. You experienced that day that you became an alpha. Now, the second day is a little bit more elusive because not everybody experiences it. The second day is the day that you fall in love with Alpha Phi Alpha. Our process, the way that our intake process is, a lot of times brothers fall in love with their chapter. and not Alpha Phi Alpha. You know what I mean? So what that does, it creates what I call a chapter-centric mindset, where you put the chapter and the chapter's needs before the fraternity's needs. So you never fall in love with Alpha, you fall in love with the chapter. So especially at the college level, you know what I mean? If I wanted to, you really wanted to stir something up, say something great happened to someone's college chapter, you know, brothers who are not active will get active just so that they can, you know, make sure that their chapter, nothing happens to their chapter. So a lot of us don't get the opportunity to fall in love with our beloved Alpha Phi Alpha. And then the third day is that if you're able and, you know, and blessed to be able to pin your son, you know, put the fraternal pin on your son, you know. So I've reached 2 out of the 3, you know. So now I'm just, you know, searching. Hopefully one of my sons will, you know, want to become an alpha, and, you know, I'll be able to pin my son. But, you know, when you really sit down and ask brothers, when did they fall in love with Alpha Phi Alpha? A lot of brothers struggle. They'll try to say, oh, it was because of, you know, someone that I grew up and he was a mentor of mine. And nah, when did you fall in love with the organization? And a lot of brothers who fall in love with the organization, they can pinpoint it. They can pinpoint when they really fell in love with the organization. So I always test brothers with that, you know, and I give brothers back their issue when it comes to that, because again, we all got to come and have that love for the fraternity. But again, you can't fake it till you make it. It won't happen. Eventually, you know, you'll be exposed.
So, you know, I love bringing this back. You're having lunch or you're meeting with Sam the Alpha, and you said that was it. You were locked in because of that. Talk about the growth of a leader through those college days, becoming a member of Alpha.
Well, I mean, you know, it let me know immediately. I never really belonged to anything with a whole bunch of black men where it was something that was positive.
Yeah.
So I knew that was bigger than me. The chapter, let's say that the chapter was bigger than me. So a lot of behaviors that, you know, you had to curve some of your behaviors because, again, I'm representing the organization. So it's just not me anymore. You know what I mean? So that helped out my leadership too, because again, there was a focus, there was a need for me to make a pivot and change the way that I looked at the collective. So I understood how to survive as an individual, right? I understood the team concept, but then, you know, motivating and moving people in a direction in a selfless way, that was something that, you know, I learned, you know, through my interactions with the fraternity.
And then, you know, you graduated. Talk about that transition into the real world as a college graduate and your early career as a working professional, and how maybe Alpha helped with that early years of your early career.
Well, remember I told you about falling in love with the organization. I think there was a time where I was bitter with the organization because, again, when you're on a college campus, you're a rock star. Just imagine, I belonged to Alpha Phi Alpha and I played on a football team. So I mean, that was ridiculous. The popularity there was unbelievable. But again, when you graduate, you know, then it's like, you know, you go back home, you go back to your community. People don't know what those letters mean. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, and then you go to alumni chapter. I went to alumni chapter meeting. It wasn't the same. You know what I mean? It was more the politics and things like that where I was like, yo, I don't like this. So so guess what happened? I was inactive. So I didn't participate. You know, I didn't do anything. But what happened was my college chapter had gotten into some trouble. And one of my mentors from from my college chapter, he had called me and told me that I needed to go to a meeting at Cheney. It was at the district conference where they were going to discuss the suspension of the chapter. So, you know, I drive up to Cheney. I'm in the meeting. At the time, I didn't know who was who. I didn't know the regional vice president, district director. I didn't know all that. You know what I mean? I'm just in the meeting. Then they talking about suspension and I'm speaking all out of order. Robert Rules of Orders way out of, I don't know what that I don't even know what that was. You know what I mean? So, but, you know, I'm cutting people off and, you know, stating the case for the chapter and all this other stuff, but we wound up didn't get suspended. But on the drive home back to Pittsburgh, I mean, I had the chance to really, I'm always, reliving things, like thinking about it. So I started thinking about what just happened. And I said to myself, if I truly want to help the fraternity, the chapter out, I got to be active. I got to be a part of the solution and not part of the problem. So from there, that's how I wound up, getting active. And then the rest was, kind of history after that.
One of the things I've always thought about, and this just, I'm glad you brought it up about chapter centric, or, we think about one alpha. I went to only one general convention in my short time. And I'll be totally transparent. It was a little overwhelming. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so grand, right? And so I felt like I find my lane at the district level, Virginia level, my chapter level, and maybe Eastern region, right? Because it's like, I can connect with people. I feel like I can get plugged in. But now you're working on it. Like, how do you balance that macro view of a very large organization and, still the, locked in for the individual smaller local needs of the organization?
I think once you start looking at the like once you go to the national level, you really start to see, well, we can say the general level. Once you start going to the general conventions and things like that, what starts to happen is that you start to see the whole thing start to work itself out. And once you start seeing the whole thing work itself out and seeing how it moves, and oh man, it's a perfect system. You know what I mean? So it brings more meaning to the region. It brings more meaning to the district. It brings more meaning to the area. It brings more meaning to the chapter. Because again, and that's the thing that hurts Alpha sometimes, because we're disconnected a lot of times, where there's people who are connected to the district and that's it. So then when you start, they'll do what they need to do for the district, but then they're not connected to the region. So you're missing out on the region. So you're missing out on, like, even when we start talking about who do we vote for? Wow. Once you start seeing it, once you start understanding it, then you start being, you start playing the game. It's like, it's like once you start understanding the game, you really start to have a better appreciation for it. So so for me, I could, if I go to a district conference, I could fit right in and, understand how everything's working. I go to a regional, I can really focus on that. But then the general, I can focus on that and the networking abilities and things like that, and the opportunities that exist. I think a lot of brothers don't be able to see. They don't never, connect with the opportunities that exist by just being an active member of the fraternity.
What would you say is, throughout this whole time in your life, are your core leadership values? As there's so many, like, people can study leadership, and there's different, like, leadership is a study where people have PhDs and they have all these theoretical models and all that. But for you, if I could say like 3 leadership, like, these are my core, the 3 things that I have to have embedded in my individual leadership style or leadership criteria, what are those 3 for you?
Well, I think one is understanding your leadership style, right? I think I understand, like, servant leadership. That's one. I'm extremely. It's never ever about me. And when I say that, I want you to look at it just. I want you to look at it just a little different. When I say it's not about me, I'm totally committed to the development of all my staff. That's my motivation. That's what I want to see: the personal development, leadership development of my staff. I want them to be the best leaders that they can be. Staff that, really want to engage themselves and test themselves, their leadership, they do very well with me. They the sky's the limit. But if you're complacent, you're stuck, you're not going to do well with me, because your development, your personal development means everything to me. So it will be the staff's personal development. I'm not over membership. I'm not. I got a director of membership, Brother TJ Barrison, who I'm developing. He's in charge of that. My job, my primary job, is to get him everything that he needs so that he can do the best job that he can possibly do. Mm-hmm. And then the third thing is, guess what? It's not about me. And you keep yourself grounded with that. It's not about me. You know what I mean? Anything that comes out of 2313 St. Paul Street, I own. If it's the negative, I'm taking that head on. I want that. I got to take that. If it's something positive, I'm pointing the direction of the individuals who's doing the work. It's never about me. But if there's something wrong, I'm taking all that. And then I tell my staff, all the time, hey, listen, we're never going to lose. As long as you're going 100 miles an hour and you following what we're trying to do, we'll never lose. There's two things that's going to happen. Either we're going to win or we're going to learn. You know what I mean? And to be honest with you, we're going to learn more than we win.
Yeah.
And if we understand that concept, then everything else will work itself out. It's about the learning. As long as we learn, what we're trying to create, we create a learning environment where everybody's constantly learning. I meet with my staff. I meet with directors every Monday for leadership development. We do leadership development every Monday for 2 hours. Every Monday. We ain't missing that. We're going to do that, and then through that, then I have individual supervisions with them bi-weekly. So we'll meet bi-weekly. We'll go over different things, what they see in their staff, things that they're trying to go, what direction. And then we always begin with the why. So why are we doing what we do? What's our why? And then we'll get to the what and the how. But we start with our why. Why do we do what we do? You know what I mean? And then for us, it's really, the mission statement of the organization, which drives us. That's the focus.
I love it. It's funny. It's like full circle, that leadership development, 2 hours, like you telling your DBs to watch film.
Right.
It's kind of bring that back, right? Like we're going to do it together.
Absolutely.
It's like the things that your leadership style kind of goes back to, like that, the day of like, okay, you show up early, you bring people to film, but you're not doing it by yourself. You got to bring your unit with you.
That's right.
I love it. Oh, okay. One of the things I heard off of that is that, yeah, I'll take the L's. I'll take the public L's. I can see that being heavy. How do you take care of yourself? How do you still fill yourself up, or, not, like, I'll take all the arrows, you know what I'm saying? Like, right. I've heard about that with leaders, right? I'll take all the arrows to protect those that I'm leading, but still you got to like, still take care. You're a human being. How do you take care of yourself?
Well, I mean, I think, there's, and a lot of people, I've told people this, and some people, they understand it. Some people, they don't. But most people don't buy into it. But, what I've learned over time is that our purpose in life is to find our purpose. What will we put on this earth to do? Right. So you run towards the smoke to figure out what it is that you're supposed to do. When you're in perfect alignment with what you love to do, it's not work. Like what I do for Alpha is not work to me. Like it's really not. It's not. Like people are like, well, how could you do that? Man, this is easy. This is not work. This is not work to me because I'm in alignment with what I love to do. If I don't love doing something, I'm not doing it. A lot of times we do a lot of stuff, and I call it, we gift jack. We jack other people's gifts. So we'll do a job because we're smart. We can do it, but eventually you're going to burn yourself out because you're not doing something that you really love to do. Like, and a lot of times then the older we get, the more difficult it becomes to really detach yourself from doing something that you really don't love doing, because now you got all these bills, you got a quality of life that you're trying to live up to. You know what I mean? So finding what you love to do and doing what you love to do make work so easy. So what you're looking for people like I'll ask people this, like somebody will say, well, hey, I would love to be able to do some work with headquarters. And I'll say, okay, so what is it that you want to do? You know what I mean? So I'm listening for what do you like doing this or do you love doing it? Just look at the people who love doing what they do. Man, the work is ridiculous. The work is unbelievable. You don't have to micromanage a person who loves doing what they do. You don't have to watch the clock when you love doing what you do. You know, there's a thing that I do. I take early flights. Like the earlier the better. If I'm going home, I want the earliest flight. So there's me being on a 5:30, 5:50, 6 o'clock flight. That's my staff know that. But here's the thing about it. If I'm at a convention on that Sunday, they know get me on the first thing smoking so I can get back home. You know, so that might be a 6 o'clock flight. But here's the thing: I don't use an alarm clock. I wake up. Nobody wakes me up. I get up, I wake up. I've never missed a flight. You do that when you're passionate about what you do. When you love doing what you do, you don't need an alarm clock. You don't need people waking you up. You just wake up.
You're ready for the day.
Yeah, man. This is my, you know what I mean? I'm gonna make the day. I'm gonna make this what it is. You know what I mean? Like talking to you about leadership, man. This is easy. This is easy work for me. Yeah. You know what I mean? This is, you know, I'm passionate about that. I love leadership. So for me to be able to sit and have a conversation with you about it, I could do this all day. I'm not looking at a clock. I'm not punching the clock. I'm not, you know, starting my car up, you know, because it's, you know, it's close to closing time. What closing time is when I get done doing what I do. When I get done, I'm done, you know. So again, I just think, you know, a lot of times it's a scary thing because I have my staff go through it. You know, like, what is it that you love to do? What is it that you love to do? Because the more and more you have people around you that love doing what they do, the work is going to be unbelievable.
Excellent. All right. Well, this is a great conversation. We probably could go forever, but I know I don't respect your time. So this is the part of the show I call Shot for Shot. You get to ask me any random question. I get to ask you any random question. You want to go first? I'll go first.
You can go first.
All right. Avid Steelers fan. Unfortunately, not a Commanders fan. You could go ahead and call them trash. What is your prediction for both teams for this upcoming football season?
Well, the Commanders is going to be a little different because they're under new leadership. Like as far as the owners and stuff are concerned, I think, you know, Magic and the team of guys that bought the Commanders, they get to put their stamp on there. That's why they went and got a new quarterback and all that other stuff, because they want their hold on one second. Hold on. The general president's calling. Hold on one second. Yeah. Brother General President, the customer service part, interesting to see. Like, are they going to be like, say, like Jerry Jones? You'll appreciate this because you're not a Cowboy.
Our guest had a very important call with the general president of Alpha. Due to the confidentiality of that call, I paused the recording, and then we resumed our conversation after his call was completed. Enjoy the show.
They'll never win again. They'll never win another Super Bowl because Jerry Jones is more concerned about making money. Now, we got to understand as fans that this is a business, and Jerry Jones is 100% right if he wants to make money, and he makes a hell of a lot of money doing what he does. I think Snyder was the same way. He would put, you know, he would grab a couple players that would make people come and make sure they keep the season ticket holders there, but he wasn't really trying to win a winning franchise. Mm-hmm. So I think Commanders, what they're trying to do,
they'll be better than last year.
Yeah. But again, I think, you know, you have to really look at this quarterback, and, you know, because if you look at successful teams, you're gonna have to talk about the quarterback position. So depending on how this quarterback plays, it's going to be all right. I think the Steelers, you know, will be good because again, they changed the quarterbacks. Need a quarterback that's a little bit more accurate, you know, that can manage the ball. They're going to have heavy run. They're going back to old school Steeler football, you know, great defense and ball control. And that's, you know, if you really look at it, that's winning recipe for, you know, championships. So we'll see.
All right, then what's your question for me? And then we'll go ahead and wrap it up because I know you're very busy.
Well, the question I have for you is, when you going to start going to the general conventions?
Like I said, I went to the one in Vegas. That was 19. Pandemic, blah blah blah. Excuses, right? Well, we could say what excuses are. I I'm going to unfortunately miss the Chicago one. I wanted to go, but I know that's very important. But I am already put it in my mind to go to the next general convention, wherever it is.
No, it's in
I'm
Philly.
going to go.
It'll be in Philly in 20.
Well, then I'm going. That's easy. I'm just going to drive up there.
Yeah, in Philly.
That's easy. There's,
2025.
I obviously going to say, too, there's no excuses for that because I went to the Eastern region in Philly. I go to this one. Like, I just drive up there. So,
Yeah.
hey, you hear it now on the podcast. If you're a frat and you don't see me in Philly in, 2025?
That's right.
Then you can call me out on my BS, but I'm going to be there. I'll be there. I'll be there.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll be there. All right. Well, this has been a great episode. I know you're very busy. This is a part of the show called Shout Outs and Plugs. You have to shout out anyone you want to show love to, and then plugs. These are the things that you want the listeners to be aware of. I'll put them in the show notes, resources, anything of that nature. Shout outs and plugs. The floor is yours, sir.
Well, the shout out, no plug. One, if you truly want to, focus on, finding your purpose, I would recommend that you read the book, The Alchemist. Read the book, The Alchemist. Great book. Oh my God. Oh, it's ridiculous. It'll see you straight. Really put you on that trajectory to really start to chase after what's rightfully yours. And then also, really, the younger you are and you start to focus on your purpose and trying to get on that journey and finding what your purpose is of being here, the happier you'll be. The time that, you can't reclaim your time, but you'll be focused on your time will be, spent so much, fulfillment by chasing after what's rightfully yours. And shameless plugs, just, all the brothers that's from the fraternity that are members who follow you, we need you to get reactivated. We're going in a totally different direction in the frat right now. I'm doing some very, very positive things. And we just want to make sure that we can, one, the focus is on you, it's about your development. And that's the beauty about it. Like, Alpha's job is to develop the leaders to go out in the communities and take over their communities. So a lot of times brothers are looking for alphas to be in the front line. We should be making statements about this. What we should be doing is developing the leaders that should be leading all these organizations. And that's Alpha's impact, because like we talked about earlier in the podcast, I'm Sean McCaskill, the Alpha. So if I'm the senator, guess what? I'm Sean McCaskill, the senator. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So who's an Alpha? Yep. So again, we represent the organization if we want to or we don't. Once you throw that pin on, people understand who you are. Now you're representing the organization. So, and then I would always encourage brothers, sometimes just rep the frat. Wear a pin, show your love for the frat. Shout out to the Alphas. Shout out to our founders and their selfless dedication and their leadership, and just, make being a brother hot again.
Hey, all right. That should be a slogan on the shirt. So make it cold again.
That's right. That's right. I like that even better. Make it cold again. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So thank you, brother. This has been a great episode. For those that are listening, please engage with Brother McCaskill and all the things he's doing. If you're a brother Alpha, please come back to the house if you need to be reclaimed, whatnot. But, please continue to contribute and wear the letters proud. For those that are listening, please share this episode with a family member or friend. Please consider writing a review or such on Spotify or Apple. If you are a consistent listener, you know that every episode is dedicated to the memory of my father-in-law, Jeff Kirsch. So please consider donating to the Jeff Kirsch Anti-Hunger Fund for all his work fighting food insecurity. And if you're a Mason at George Mason University, please consider sending a Pats for Patriots to show love to someone around the community to uplift their day. But this has been a great episode, and we're out. Thank you for listening to Positive Philter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.